Hello, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about, are they really a healer and an empath and someone that's going to help you integrate your trauma and become your highest self and transcend all your things that are the wrong with you and fix you and reveal all the answers to you and deliver God to you and all these things? Or are they just digging around in trauma? Are they just people who are projecting? Do they maybe have some good ideas and then some not so great ideas? Are they actually capable of supporting you through a healing process or through an integration process? Or is it all, like I say, projection and assumption and believing they know how they're going to heal things when really they're just going to stir up stuff and make you feel like something happened because they get you all activated and all of this? And this is a topic that I am super, 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 super passionate about because, yes, I have been in the health, wellness, spirituality, personal growth world for a very long time, for the last 15 years, for the last 20 years. I don't even know how long it's been. I got into this really young, even being raised in the Christian church and being exposed to that kind of spirituality and the idea of healing and deliverance and people being able to prophesy and people being able to heal others and channel things. Like, this has kind of been something that I've been witnessing and that I've been a part of probably for my entire life. And I've seen a lot of harm and I've seen a lot of things that did not actually heal people, that make things worse, that really convince people that they have answers and that they are going to heal you and that they're going to fix you, and the kind of just same techniques and false ideas that are perpetuated over and over and over again. And I just feel like this is something that needs to be talked about because there is a huge and deep vulnerability when we are struggling, when we don't feel like we are doing well in life, when we feel pain in our bodies, when we feel pain in our emotions, when we're going through difficult things in our relationships, when we're struggling with money, whatever it is. When we have pain in our lives, we are in a vulnerable position, right? And to understand this, to understand that when we are in pain and we are looking for the solution, that this makes us vulnerable to people who are really able to connect with us emotionally and to convince us that there is a solution to our problem and that they have that solution. And especially when they are able to, kind of position themselves as empathic and as caring and as being able to see you and understand you in ways that other people can't, and when they are able to position themselves as having special information or special understanding that other people don't have, we can be very susceptible to being manipulated and to being hurt and to being harmed and to having our trauma just get dug around in and made worse and overexposed. And we can even be fooled into thinking that the techniques that people are presenting are working or are the thing. And if we're not healing, that we're failing on some level and we're doing something wrong. Or we can be stuck in situations where we're being given solutions that are very, very traumatizing in and of themselves, but we interpret that trauma and that excitement and that nervous system overwhelm as being a healing thing. And then we wonder why we crash, and we wonder why afterwards we aren't able to integrate or we aren't able to make whatever it is that we just learned last in our lives. And it's because there's just so much misunderstanding about what healing actually is and what it actually requires and what the journey looks like and what it actually looks like to support somebody. And there's a lot of magical thinking, and there's a lot of just people who are either nefarious and have the intention of taking advantage of people who are hurting, and that's a real thing, or people who are confused themselves and really think that they're doing something when they aren't. And the whole, kind of movement of people, everyone believing that they're an empath and that they have the right to talk to people about their trauma, and that they think that they're a healer because they've been through this or that, and not being able to actually really connect with people and figure out where they're actually coming from and empathize with their actual situation, and not being able to actually know what it takes to heal. And rather, we just know what stimulation is. Hi, Anna. So good to see you. Um, that's what I want to talk about today, because a lot of people are getting hurt, and a lot of people are getting confused, and a lot of people are being scammed out of a lot of money and out of time, and like I say, they're being hurt, and things are being made worse, and they're getting confused about why that's happening. And that's why I want to talk about this today. Okay, so before we get too deep into it, I just want to say again, just reminding you that I have my mystery school. If you want to join, if you're loving this content, if this has been helpful for you and you feel like you want to take it deeper, I highly recommend joining the school. You can cancel anytime. It's a 5-year self-study program, and it comes with 5 curriculums with tons of tools, tons of information, tons of resources. It comes with a private group. We meet once a month privately in there. You can talk to me directly. There's questions. All of these great things. So if this is something that is interesting to you, if this is something that's working for you, and you want to check it out, I highly recommend it. You can check it out in my link tree. You can check it out. There's links to everywhere. Reach out to me if you have any questions about it. And I just want to let you know that that's what supports these videos. So thank you for everyone who's in there, and I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that it benefits you and nourishes you and supports you on your path. And if it doesn't, please let me know, and I will refund you, and I will help you out in any way that I can. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about things. Okay, so again, when we are in a position of pain, we are going to seek solutions, generally speaking, right? And especially in this world, okay, where we need to be honest that the mental health field has a lot of shitty things in it and a lot of barriers to entry. It's extremely expensive. Good therapy can be very difficult to find. Just because someone has a degree, just because someone has a diploma, just because someone has training, doesn't mean that they're actually empathic, doesn't mean that they're actually capable of, being a good therapist. I have personally experienced so many shitty therapists. I know a lot of people who have experienced a lot of really shitty therapists that made it worse, that made fun of their problems, that, harmed them more than helped them. We also have to acknowledge that things like our medical system are pretty messed up. And so there are really great doctors. There are things in medicine that are fantastic. Medicine has saved lives, and it can be very compartmentalized, and it can be very difficult when you have a complex issue, or when you have chronic illness, or when you have kind of these more systemic, more complicated, it's not just like you fell and broke your leg, or you have a very obvious infection and we can give you an antibiotic. Like, when things get more complicated, in a lot of ways, medicine has failed a lot of people. And that is devastating. It is really hard to move through the world when you are sick and you are struggling and you know something is wrong and you're being medically gaslit, or they don't have solutions for you, or they're just pushing drugs on you that aren't working, and all of these things. That's a real thing. Yeah? We live in a world where it's not easy to provide for yourself a lot of the time. And it's not perfect, and our structures are very inequitable, and a lot of people are struggling with money, and they're struggling with finances, and they're struggling with their job, and they're struggling with the keeping up with capitalism, and it causes a lot of mental health issues, and it causes social issues, and it causes financial issues and safety issues, and these are real problems that people are facing. We live in a culture where we have been trained not to really understand ourselves, not to understand our emotions, not we haven't been taught how to communicate properly and how to understand what we need and how to compromise with others. So we get into relationships and they're codependent and they're messy and they're toxic and they're abusive, and we don't know what to do and we don't know how to solve it, and we are in pain and things just loop around over and over and over again. So we have to acknowledge, right, that the the scope and the playing field that we're living in kind of breeds being in a situation where we don't feel good and where we're struggling and we don't feel like we can live a life of satisfaction and peace and joy, and where we can have these problems and not be able to know what the solution is. And then on top of that, right, like a lot of us are walking around with complex PTSD and traumas from our history, and just really shitty, beliefs about ourselves, and low self-esteem, and not understanding our worth and our value, and feeling like we're never good enough, and struggling to find what makes us happy in life, what lights us up, feeling like we know why we're here and what our purpose is. And all of this leads to pain, right? And us being in a situation of feeling pain and living in pain and wanting answers and wanting to feel good and wanting to transcend these complex issues, and feeling very stuck and trapped when we are not able to. So we walk around in pain and we're doing this stuff and we want solutions. And like I said, we need to understand that first and foremost, this is going to make us vulnerable, right? That we are walking around when we are in that pain position. I am in pain and I don't know how to get out and I'm looking for the answer. We are vulnerable. We are emotionally vulnerable. We are physically vulnerable. We are financially vulnerable. We are relationally vulnerable. We are emotionally vulnerable. And that sets us up for being able to be manipulated and taken advantage of by people who either have nefarious ideas and plans or people who literally also just don't understand things themselves and are pushing solutions and narratives that they maybe even genuinely believe do something that actually make things worse. Okay? And then the next thing is that we are a kind of people who have we're living in a world where the idea of what healing is supposed to look like and the idea of what transformation is supposed to look like and the ideas and the narratives around what it's supposed to feel like when we're really doing something and we're healing and we're transcending are not in alignment with reality. Okay? And what I mean by that very specifically is a lot of the time we believe that the more intense something is emotionally. Hey baby, hi Marcus. Good to see you. My husband is here and that's just kind of nice and makes me feel special. It makes us think that the most extreme thing, the most extreme feeling, the most nervous system activating, oh my gosh, I felt something situation is what healing is. And this, to me, is the most dangerous part of this entire vulnerability of having pain and getting into situations where people are able to take advantage of us. Okay? where people are able to sell us solutions that are not solutions, that are really just digging around in trauma and bringing things up and stirring things up and convincing us that that is what healing is, when really it's just stimulation and re-traumatization that does not lead to transformation. Okay? So we live in a world right now where people are saying that they're empaths, saying that they're healers, saying that they're transformational kind of people. Because on some level, they are able to read into people's pain and to stir it up and to bring it to the surface. Okay? This idea that because a practitioner or because a social media person or because a healer or a whatever is able to look at you and be like, hey, I see your pain. So, for instance, like a massage therapist who's massaging your body and is like, hey, I feel this tension in this area of your body, or I'm feeling energetically this or this or this. Do you have a messed up relationship with your dad? Do you have a messed up relationship with your mom? Is this or that happening to you? And you're laying there being like, holy shit, I never told them that. I'm just laying here getting a massage, and like, how did they know? And you're like, yes, I do have a fucked up relationship with my dad. I do have a fucked up relationship with my mom. And they're like, yeah, okay, I was feeling that. And then they start to dig in to your history, and they start to tell you things about yourself and connect dots, and then make suggestions of what you need to be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, and what you need to heal and what you need to forgive, and giving all of this advice. And we're in this situation of like, whoa, okay, like, I do have this problem, and they seem to be right about the cause, and what they're saying makes sense. And now they're getting me all emotionally activated because they're stirring up a thing that's activating in me, right? It's a pain point for me. It's a vulnerability, it's a weakness, it's a place where I am in pain. Okay? Or we go to a practitioner, or we're with someone and they're like, hey, you tell them about your gut issues, or you tell them about your financial issues, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm reading into you, and I can see that this is rooted in this, and this came from this, and it's because your mom was like this and she did that, and then you had this, and then this is the conditions of your birth, and they start to tell you all these things about yourself, and you're like, again, whoa, they're right. Yeah, that totally happened. Or, yeah, okay, I can see that connection, or maybe that is true. And so they're able to connect with you. They're able to make you feel like they know something, and they must have some sort of answer, and they must have some sort of intuitive gift, because how else would they know all of these things? And then again, they start giving advice. They start telling you what you should do. They start telling you what these answers are. They start telling you what they did and what worked for them. And because they were able to convince you of their capacity by reading you and reading your situation and telling you things that were true about you, you're far more likely to believe that they're going to be able to give you a solution and that what they're saying is true, because they just proved to you their empathic capacity by reading into you. And like I say, even just connecting with you on an emotional level, connecting with you on that vulnerability, and then delivering you answers. Another situation where this can happen is people who claim to have magical gifts, right? So medical intuitives and people out there who claim that they can read your aura, or that they know special health information that they don't want you to know, and they have access to secret truths that, the mainstream doesn't know. And so they feed into this idea that there's special, secret, sacred knowledge that is being hidden from us, that they have access to it, that they were in the pain that you were in, or that they understand the pain you were in, right? They're going to connect with you on an emotional level. They're going to be like, you're suffering with this health issue, and you're suffering with this mental health thing, and you're suffering with this financial thing, and I see your pain, and this is the struggle you're having because of it. And I, the magical person, have access to the answers that other people don't have. And you are special because you found the real information. You're here. You know this now. And out there is bad and scary, and they're withholding from you the answers, and they're evil pharmaceutical companies and evil food production companies and evil medicine and evil this and evil that. And I am the light, I am the savior, and I have this special information, and I'm going to deliver it to you, and you are special by being on the inside. And we get all wrapped up in this cornucopia of promises of deliverance, of promises of special information that other people don't know, of finally being validated that we weren't supported and that what everyone else is doing isn't working for us, feeling like we're not alone. And then they offer these big magical solutions that, again, we're gonna believe are gonna work because they just prove to us through connecting with us emotionally and making us feel included and making us feel special and making us feel afraid of the outside world and like everything else is wrong, bad, and evil and scary, but this person has all the good, light, saving stuff, and now you feel dependent on them, and you feel connected to them, and you feel like you have to follow through on anything that they say. You have to believe anything that they say, because of course they're magic and they're saving you from the big, bad, scary world out there. So part of what they're saying makes sense. And part of what they're saying is true. And then you might try some of their solutions. You might try some of the things that they recommend. And on a level, it works. Right? Because again, if people were walking around giving things that had absolutely no value, that did not work at all, that made no difference for anybody, it would be very easy to point it out and be like, that's wrong, that's a charlatan, that's a manipulation, that's not real. But usually these empathic people or the special people with special information or whatever it is are able to deliver just enough truth, just enough answer, right? So again, they make you feel seen. They make you feel heard. They make you feel like they know something about you that you didn't tell them, or that they couldn't have possibly known any other way than if they were truly magical, or truly empathic, or truly had a gift. They make you feel like the outside world is wrong and scary. They're going to validate you in a way that you've not been validated before. They're going to see you in a way that you haven't been seen before. They're going to offer solutions that on some level do have some truth to them, are able to do something. And or what they are going to offer you in that massage or in that, healing session or in the book that they've written is going to be incredibly stimulating for the nervous system. Okay? They're going to do something that gets you to just bawl your eyes out on the table. They're going to do something that makes you feel extremely activated. like a plant medicine ceremony, or they're gonna get you to go on some sort of extreme fast or extreme diet, or doing really extreme breath work, or some very extreme physical practice. And it makes you feel something, right? Like you feel like you have a revelation. You feel like you have a big emotional release. It makes you feel like something is happening. And then they convince you that that's what healing is. That's what healing is supposed to feel like. It's supposed to feel like this big nervous system overwhelm, this massive thing that happens. So then you start to believe, okay, they had this special information they couldn't have known. They're really emotionally connecting with me. They're making me feel seen, heard, and validated in a way that I'm not usually seen, heard, and validated. They knew stuff that they couldn't have known. They have special information that other people don't have. And the thing that they're offering me is triggering. It's stirring me up. I'm crying. I'm releasing. I'm having big emotional catharsis. I'm having some sort of giant experience. It's gonna make us feel like we are being healed and like we have found the answer. And this is why this is so dangerous. Because in real reality, here's the thing that I think nobody wants to hear, but is absolutely true. Generally speaking, healing, true healing, happens when our nervous systems are grounded. True healing happens in a place of safety, of groundedness, of being able to witness emotions and go to dark, scary, heavy places, while also being able to be regulated, to stay in the adult perspective, to be supported in staying in that adult perspective, in learning how to process our emotions, and slow little steps that eventually over time accumulate to transformation. Generally speaking, healing does not happen in a moment. Healing does not happen in a session. Healing does not happen because we released emotionally, or because we find the perfect diet and we go on it for, we do a cleanse. Healing does not happen in extremely nervous system activating situations. A revelation, seeing information, understanding a bigger picture is not healing. And this is a tough pill for us to swallow. Because when we are hurting, and when we are struggling, and when we are suffering, we don't want to hear. The very last thing we are going to want to hear is this is going to be a process that's going to take time, and integrating and changing and healing and getting to a new place in our lives is going to take slow, methodic, repetitive, grounded, safe, small steps that accumulate over time. Healing happens when we are safe, when we are grounded, when we are loved and supported, and when we are given space to process and take little steps over time. And the second thing that no one really wants to hear is that healing is really actually not that complicated. And it's not magical, generally speaking. What we need as humans to find peace and enjoyment and to process our past and to do all these things, generally speaking, is pretty much the same for all of us. Learning how to process the pain that we've been through being validated, made safe, and able to feel what didn't feel good about it, to process what didn't feel good about it, to move through the shame, guilt, and blame stories that we've been told, to figure out what real reality is, right? That cognitive behavioral therapy, the thought work, and the somatic work of moving these emotions through our bodies slowly and steadily until we can eventually find ways of life that work for us. Physical healing is very similar. It's not going to happen because of a thing. We're going to slowly figure out what our bodies need and how to support them the best we can within the conditions that exist. Generally speaking, that's what heals us physically. Big extreme things feel really good at first, a lot of the time, because change feels like something. Okay? Spiritual healing, again, it doesn't happen because we did a session or we had a revelation or we did the plant medicine and whatever. The healing of any kind of spiritual situation happens in the integration process. In what we do with that revelation and how much we can ground that into our real reality and let it be something that informs us over time in order to change how we do things. Healing in relationships is slowly, gently working through our triggers, the things we believe about ourselves and others, learning to communicate differently, learning to be in our bodies and in our nervous systems and how we're getting activated and how we're perceiving things and changing our perspective, figuring out how to make money and how to support ourselves in our world and our economy is, again, it's slow steps that are a little bit different for everybody. There is no magical manifestation, pleasure practice, align your chakras, and money will flow to you. Heal your nervous system and money will flow to you. That's not a thing. How we interact in the world and where we are in the world and all of this stuff, it's a pretty individual process. And again, it's going to be step by step by step by step by step. And someone who is actually able to empathize with you in a real way and to support you through your healing. Number one, will never, ever, ever start from a place of giving you advice. Okay, so here's how you're going to start to tell the difference between someone who can actually support you and someone who's just digging around in trauma. Okay? Number one, are they starting with suggestions or are they starting with questions? But even before that, okay? Even before that, number one, are they starting with consent and reasonable power dynamic? So this is the big base foundation that if this is not present, I highly recommend that you send up a red flag and be very aware. Okay? If you're laying on the massage table, you're naked and you're exposed, and they start asking you about your trauma, and you didn't bring it up, you didn't ask, you didn't do anything, that is crossing a boundary, and that is not okay. Because you are laying vulnerable naked on a table, and they have so much power over you. Like, you are literally physically exposed. And then they're starting to ask you about things that have nothing to do with the service you actually went in for. That should be a red flag. So, are they actually doing the thing that you showed up for? Or are they taking it further without your consent? And if that is happening, I really want to encourage you. You have the right to say, look, no. I don't feel comfortable going there. I do not want to talk about this. This doesn't feel like a safe thing for me. I wasn't prepared for this today. Right? And I know, again, that there's going to be that part of us that's like, someone understands. Someone sees me. They're magical. They have this gift. Of course. But it just so often gets into dangerous territory when it starts like that, when the power dynamic is off, when you have gone in for one service and they're starting to bring up other things and they're going other places without you asking, without you doing that. Even if they were to say, okay, look, I'm feeling some other things. Would you feel open to me sharing what I'm feeling? Even that is better than, I'm feeling this thing. Is this what's happening with you? Okay? There needs to be consent. There needs to be, I am opening myself up to this willingly, and not it is being opened for me. Okay? That's the first thing. And like I say, the second thing is that power dynamic. Do you feel in control of saying no? Do you feel in control of not going any further? Okay? In every single one of my sessions, when I am working with somebody, number one, I never spring anything on anybody. They know what they are expecting, because I make it very clear what we are going to do in a session. We talk about this in an email before we even start. Second thing is, first call we ever have is always, you are in the driver's seat. I am going to check in with you multiple times a call. Are you okay? Are you grounded right now? Can you feel your body? What are you feeling in your body? Is this feeling safe for you? If this is activating, if this is triggering, are you able to stay in your adult perspective, or are you being sucked into the emotion? Are you losing yourself in this? Because if we are not going there. That is not safe territory. Consent and power dynamic are the two main things that need to be there, first and foremost, before anything. Otherwise, they are probably just digging around in trauma. Okay? Third thing. Are they making magical promises or positioning themselves as being magical and more capable than other people? That is a red flag. Okay? I am really good at reading people. I've been that way my entire life. It's a skill that I had And then, of course, has just developed because we talked about sensitivity last week. And I've just always been a very deeply sensitive person. I can feel into people's bodies. I can read people's minds. Like, these kinds of things are a part of my experience. And I will never share that stuff. I never project that stuff. I never tell people what they're feeling or tell people what they're thinking. Because that is inappropriate. I will say, I am feeling this. Is this what you're feeling? I am sensing this. Is this what you're sensing? And then the next big thing is questions. If you have consented to someone's advice, if you feel safe that you can say no at any point, the power dynamic is there. You've opened yourself to their intuitive guidance or whatever. The next thing you need to look for is, are they asking me questions? Are they getting curious about me? Are they allowing me to explain things from my perspective? Or is it all about what they see, what they've done, what it was for them, how it was for them, how they see it, and what they think you should do? Okay? If they're starting with advice, if they're starting with telling you what you should do, if they're starting with telling you what this is, that's another red flag. Especially if they've emotionally connected with you and been like, yeah, I felt that too, and I had this, and all of these things are connected, and look at how much I know. Because I can feel this about you, and I can hear this about you. And especially if there's parts of you that are sitting there going, okay, but that doesn't actually resonate with me. And that's not really true. I don't think that that's real. And then instead of them saying, okay, I got it wrong, you are more right about you than I am. They're like, oh, you're denying this. Or, oh, you just don't want to look at this. Or you just have resistance. Or you are blind about that. Huge red flag. Because even if that's true, even if they're right and you're wrong about yourself, it is always, always, always their job to respect your level of awareness right now and what feels true for you right now. And if at some point in the future you come back and be like, hey, you know what, I was actually thinking about this and I realized that that thing you said was correct. Great, then we can go there. But if they offer something and you're like, no, that doesn't align, that doesn't make sense for me, that doesn't feel true for me, that hasn't been my experience, and they don't respect that, and they're not able to say, okay, sorry, I got it wrong. Red flag. No one should ever be telling you what your experience is in contradiction to what you see your experience as being. Like I said, even if they turn out to be right, you didn't see it, you weren't ready to see it at that time, we're not going there. They can say, okay, maybe it's something to think about, but they should never push it. And then the next thing again, if their solutions make you feel incredibly stimulated, if the process they lead you on is this big emotional catharsis, but there's no integration. Because again, sometimes we do have big emotional releases. Sometimes we are going to feel big emotions in sessions. Sometimes that is good therapy. That is good support. But if we are not at the end of the session, at the closing, tying that back together, coming back into our adult perspective, coming back into our present moment, grounding, right? If they're leaving you in that activated state, if they're leaving you in that open, vulnerable state, if you're going out of the session feeling like your wound just got ripped open and it's still wide open, they didn't do a good job. It should never feel like that. It should always feel like things got put back together. And even if you saw something big, and even if you processed something big, you should walk out feeling like I have tools to help me continue to process this afterwards. I have journaling tools, I have emotional release tools, I have somatic tools, I have awareness that this wasn't the healing. That this was a step on the process, and I have tools for integrating it, tools for support. If you don't feel like that, if it feels like it just got ripped open, and if this didn't heal everything, you're going to go back to your life and not know what to do, and you feel like you have to go back to the practitioner now, over and over and over again, because you only can get there with them. Red flag. If they're not giving you tools to be able to start to do these things on your own, to be able to start to listen to your own body, to be able to start to listen to your own emotions, to be able to put yourself into the adult perspective without their help, to be able to start to process your feelings and to validate yourself without somebody else being there. If they're not giving you tools to help you do that, they're not healing you. Next, again, if they are claiming that they are a single source, that they are the one that has the information, and if you don't have them, you will miss it, and that what they know is somehow magical or different, that no one else could know, walk away. It's never true. That's never reality. And tacking on to that, if they are telling you they can heal your whole life or heal everything, that this is the answer and you'll never need anything else ever again, that is also a huge red flag. My biggest thing that I tell my clients, number one, I am not your only source. You could totally stop listening to me, and I truly believe that you could continue to heal. That you can find other people who are saying similar things, that you can find other information, that you can figure it out on your own. I'm just here as a support. I'm just here as someone to help you connect with yourself and connect with your steps and to see what's going to work for you and to help you problem solve and to create that safe, validating space so you can go on your process, whatever that's going to look like. I don't get to decide when and where we look at things, what we look at, what is appropriate or not appropriate. You decide that. And I am but a single step, right? The self-love work isn't everything. It's a foundation. But I fully expect that anyone that follows this work is also listening to other people, is also listening to their own body, is also doing other things. I recommend other resources all the time because no one person and no one program and no one thing has all the answers. There are things that I don't have any capacity to speak on. Because I don't have experience with it, I don't know about it, so I don't talk about it. I don't pretend to have those answers, because I don't. And if your practitioner is not coming from that place of humility, and yeah, I know the things that I know, and they work for some people, but they don't necessarily work for everybody, and they're not for everyone all the time, and they're not the be-all, end-all. If it's not like that, red flag. Okay, and again, the biggest thing that I want to get across is if it's not making you feel more grounded in yourself, if it's not making you feel more grounded in your life, if it's taking you out of your reality, if it's, I have to go to the retreat, or I have to go to the session, or I have to go to the whatever in order to feel something, if it's, I have to do these extreme detox fasts and these extreme physical things to feel it, and this extreme breath work that makes me cry, be very cautious. Because nervous system activation and stimulation is not the same thing as healing. Okay, so just because someone can connect with you on an emotional level, just because someone can read you, just because someone can validate you in a way that you haven't been validated before, does not make them a healer. Does not mean that they have special information that no one else has. Does not mean that they are able to support you through what healing actually looks like. And again, generally speaking, healing is a long-term process. It's something that happens slowly over time. So if they're pushing things and they're rushing things and they're taking you places that you are not able to stay grounded when you go there, they're going too fast. And they're not honoring your process. And they're not honoring you. And they're projecting, and they're probably doing it because they want that response for their own self. They're not doing it for you. If they're doing it to prove that their theory is correct, and anytime you object, they tell you that you're wrong. They tell you that you're not doing it enough. They tell you that you just didn't do it right, or you just didn't do it long enough. Red flag. If it's not working for you, they should always be investigating what about what they are offering to you isn't correct. What about what they are offering to you isn't working? And how can they shift it so that it will work for you? It should be tailored to you and not about you tailoring yourself to them. And again, right, that last thing is the projection. Is if they are starting with advice. If they're like, oh, I see what's going on with you, and here is what you should do. Here's what you should eat. Here's what you need to do to heal. I'm reading this about you, and this is what you need to do. And they're starting with advice instead of starting with questions, instead of starting with consent and then starting with questions. Walk away. Like, I'm just going to say, walk away. Because that is not a healer. That is someone who is projecting. If they're not interested in getting to know you before they start giving you advice, no matter what they think they know about you, no matter how empathic they are, no matter how many times they've seen this before, if they're not treating you like you are a unique individual with your unique circumstances, but they're just telling you this is how it is, it's not okay. That's not healing. That's not being empathic. That's being dogmatic. Okay? So again, healing comes from a grounded place. Healing comes when we feel safe, and generally speaking, from a process that takes place over time. It's about building tools in our toolbox. It's not about one thing. It's not about a big emotional transformation. And no one heals you. That's the other big bottom thing. You are going to heal yourself. Other people might support you and be there for you and be on the path with you, and that's beautiful and wonderful and lovely. And they will help you develop tools and help you develop skills. But ultimately, you are the one who's going to do the work to heal you. And if they are not in a position where they are seeing that, and when you make progress and you have breakthroughs, they don't go, yeah, because of you. Right? I just said words. I gave you ideas and suggestions. You had breakthroughs because of you. You had breakthroughs because you did the work. You did the contemplation. You did the integration. I can tell you what's going on with you and what your history is and your relationship with your dad all I want. But that doesn't heal you. You being aware of that is not healing you. It's setting you up to maybe be able to take steps towards healing, sure. But that is not what heals you. The big cry session is not what heals you. The extreme fast and the extreme breathing is not what heals you. What heals you is the integration, the process afterwards, the work you do later. The steps and the tools that make you feel more and more capable and more in your adult self and more aware and more able to be grounded and to make clear decisions that actually feel good for you. That's what healing is. Everything else is noise. So we have to be able to witness our own vulnerability when we are hurting. To witness our own vulnerability when we are down. To witness the vulnerability we have to the idea that someone is magic and has ideas and insights that no one else knows or that are hidden in secret or whatever it is. And we have to be willing to be honest with ourselves that we're not going to go there. If someone is not giving you consent and putting you in the driver's seat, say no. If they are not starting with questions and getting to know you, and if they aren't giving suggestions and then asking if that actually resonates with you, and you don't feel like you can say no, you don't feel like they can say, okay, sorry, I was wrong. Walk away. That's not okay. All right? If they're truly empathic, they're interested in going slow, in making sure you feel in control, in making sure you feel safe, in making sure that they are giving you tools and setting you up to feel powerful, and setting you up to feel like you can navigate this, and they are in the passenger seat helping you out. If it feels anything other than that, be careful. Okay? Because there are a lot of really great healers out there, both credentialed and uncredentialed. And that's what makes a good healer. Tools, resources, groundedness. Actually being able to support you, close things up at the end, give you tools, integration, slow and steady, never overriding your boundaries, never pushing you to extreme places. You should always feel better by the end. Grounded, clearer. Steps, tools to go home with. If it doesn't feel like that, it's not okay. And if you don't feel like you can say, this isn't working for me, and know that you're going to be respected and loved and seen in that. That maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this doesn't work for you. Maybe things need to be changed so that it will work for you. But you're then told you're doing it wrong. You need to change. You're bad, wrong, trying to take down the person, whatever. Not healthy. Okay? Okay. I hope that was helpful. I hope that gives you tools. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. And I will see you next week. All right? Have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic month whenever I see you again.